If you look at this sucker here, it is 23-inch diameter. That is black walnut. Look at the colors on that wood. Wild. Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farm, and today we're going to be turning wood into smaller wood, which is kind of one of my hobbies. And being self-employed, I'm always looking for little side jobs I can do to make a little extra money, especially making use of the equipment I have to do it. And here's an example of that. I picked up this pile of wood and I'm going to turn some of it into firewood, and I think there's one log in there that's going to make this worth it. But most of it is not. And what I mean by that is, if you go on Marketplace, and Marketplace knows that you're a wood hound, they're going to constantly show you listings for free logs. Or, what's even better, you know, you see it in Facebook groups all the time. You'll see people wanting a small fortune for some logs that are on their property. And those people with the listings don't recognize what it takes to get those logs home and turn them into wood. So if someone puts a listing for free wood and I've got to go get this, I've got to think about hooking up my trailer and the fuel it takes to get there, and the drive there, and the drive back. And then I've got to think, how am I going to load this wood? Am I taking a machine with me? Am I taking a log splitter with me? How am I getting it back? So in this case, I had to take the tractor so that I could load this log, because at least one of these logs needs to be brought home in one piece. So I had to take the tractor, then load the wood with the tractor, then bring the trailer back. Now I have to have another machine here to unload the trailer. Then I've got to go back and get the tractor. So you end up with a lot of time and transport cost. Then you add that to the cost that you already have in making firewood, with the fuel for your machines, the fuel for your splitter, and the time you invest in it. You say a lot of times that free wood isn't worth getting. Now these are all trees that I cut down myself. This is my daughter's property. So I had that obligation to go ahead and clean up my mess. But it's an interesting question. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. If you see on Marketplace free wood, is it worth it to go get it? So I think most of this, I took it to get it out of the way. This one here is the one I'm excited to see what I can make out of it. So we'll get to that. First thing we gotta do is get this unloaded. Look at the colors on that wood. Wild. If you've got a bunch of medium-sized logs that are pretty straight, then I think my log deck that I built is fantastic. It really makes it easy to cut those logs up into 16-inch pieces and removes the need to bend down and pick them up. What you're going to see with this next load of logs is that it doesn't work as well when you're dealing with twisted or gnarly or uneven sized pieces. I still went ahead and used it in this case, but afterwards I decided that it might have been easier to cut those up on the ground. So if you look at this sucker here, it is 23-inch diameter. That is black walnut. Absolutely gorgeous log. I routinely see listings on Facebook or other classified websites where people are asking for $3,000 or $5,000 for a big walnut log like this. And a lot of times they're showing a picture of the standing tree. And nobody is giving thought to the reality of trying to get lumber out of that and what those logs are actually worth. So let's say optimistically there is $1,000 of lumber in that log. What does it take for me to get that lumber out of that log? So first, I have to show up with a chainsaw, felling wedges, maybe ropes and chains, and the expertise to take the tree down. So I've got my travel expenses, I have the overhead of the equipment, and I've got to show up and spend my time cutting down this tree. Then I've got to cut it down into the log, hoping that it's not rotten or even partially rotten inside. And if I'm lucky and we've got a solid tree, now I've got this on the ground, but what do I do with it? First thing is I've got to get it home. So now part of my trip includes taking a machine or like a custom log arch trailer that can load this log onto my trailer. So I take a tractor to this location, I cut down a tree, I cut it up, I load it onto my trailer, I bring it back. Now I need a way to unload it whenever I get home. So now we've loaded it with one machine, we've unloaded it with another, we've traveled multiple times. Now my tractor is at the other location and I've got to go get it. So there's another trip, that's more fuel in the truck, wear and tear on the trailer, wear and tear on the tractor or the lifting equipment. All of that to get the log here. Once it's here, I've got to have the sawmill and put fuel in the sawmill. I have to put a blade on the sawmill, which is a disposable item. It's a consumable item. And then I have to invest my time into cutting this into lumber. And once I cut it into lumber, now I have boards. But nobody wants those boards because it's green wood. And as it dries, it's going to try to warp. So once I cut that into lumber, I've got to stack it and cover it and prep it so that it will dry in the proper manner. And then I've got to wait a year. And during that year, it's taking up space under my roof, which is a limited commodity as well. So I dry that for a year. Now I have to find customers. I have to create a listing for that wood. And then I have to take messages and people who are interested at, oh, turns out after we exchanged a bunch of messages and I spent my time talking to you, you needed a 14-inch board and what I have is only 12. Or you needed it 9 foot long and what I have is 8. So you go through that entire sales process, and at the end of it, you might sell part of it for $500. And this happens over a year after you show up at this person's house with the chainsaw. So commercial logging operations make a lot of money by making all of this convenient and streamlined and being really good at it. But they're not coming to your house for one tree. An individual like myself has all these kinks to work out of their system. How do I get this home? How do I get it stored properly? How do I get it dried? How do I find a customer? And that log might be worth $1,000 to a logger if he's already there. To me, when you subtract all my expenses, I'd say it's worth about 50 bucks. And really, I'll do it if it's free and I'm not busy that day. So that's the reality. If you have a tree on your property that you think is valuable, that's the reality of trying to get the money out of it. There may be people better at that than me, but for me, I have a hard time getting money back out of these logs. I cut them up because I enjoy doing it, and 2 years from now, I'm going to make something out of this walnut that I can be proud of. So, just a little conversation I wanted to have about the value of logs. All right, well, I think I'm going to call it a day. Got the firewood taken care of, but the log will be for another day. It's a beaut. What do you think I ought to make out of this walnut? I've got this stack over here that's cherry, and that is walnut that I've been drying for 2 years. I got slabs of it. They're like 2 or 3 inches thick, 14 inches wide. Beautiful, perfectly dried, perfectly flat wood. What should I make out of it? Anyway, I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.